Hey folks, it's Brett with Full Time My RV, and it's fall, which is my favorite time of year because fall means college football. But fall also means cooler temperatures and that winter's right around the corner. So in this video, we're going to go over a bunch of tips and tricks and some safety issues that you need to be aware of in wintertime. So that way you have a nice, comfortable, and safe winter while you're living in your RV. First off, let's talk about some of the safety issues that you need to be aware of. Number one, most RVs use a propane furnace to heat the RV. And while propane is fairly efficient and is a good source to use for heating an RV, it also can be dangerous. At least once a year, you want to have your propane system checked to make sure that there's no leaks. And the reason being is that propane, it's heavy and it accumulates around the floor areas. And when your furnace kicks on, it's going to either use a pilot light or a spark to ignite the propane that's coming through the furnace, and that could ignite any propane that you had pulled around it, which is going to cause an explosion and fire. So definitely spend the money and take the time to get your propane system evaluated once a year to make sure that it's operating the way that it's supposed to. And that's just good for peace of mind and good for safety. Additionally, you want to make sure that you've got good carbon monoxide detectors, propane detectors, and fire alarms. You want to make sure that you press the test button so that you know that they're working. And if they have a battery backup, now's a good time to replace those batteries. Let's talk about carbon monoxide first. Carbon monoxide is known as the silent deadly killer. And the reason being is that carbon monoxide is both colorless and odorless. You won't know that it's in the house. And if you're asleep in your room and the carbon monoxide starts to build up inside the RV, you simply are not going to wake up when the morning comes. It will displace the oxygen in the brain and slowly but surely suffocate you. And that you just, like I said, you'll go to sleep and you won't wake up. But it's equally dangerous when you are awake, because while carbon monoxide, when it gets into your lungs, it displaces the oxygen and causes your brain to be starved of oxygen. You'll feel a feeling of euphoria, and you may not even know that you're being poisoned slowly. So your best defense is carbon monoxide detectors, and I really can't stress that one enough. Secondly is the propane detectors. If you should have a leak of propane in your house, these detectors, they should be placed near the floor in front of the oven, and even to some degree you may want to put them by the furnace, although you may get some false alerts if it's near the furnace. If that propane detector does go off, exit your RV immediately. Do not slam your door shut because it could cause a spark. Exit as quickly as you can, but as safely as you can, not to have any static electricity discharges, because that could also ignite the propane. Go outside, turn your bottles off, and call the fire department. They're going to know how to handle the situation. Then you can go ahead and have the necessary repairs made and re-enter your RV and know that you're going to be safe. And lastly, as far as the alarms go, let's talk about the fire alarms. You want to make sure that your fire alarm is in proper working order and has good batteries, because that could be your last line of defense should a fire start somewhere else in the coach and you may be asleep. It's going to give you valuable time to get out and ensure your safety. Now let's talk about safety for space heaters, and then in a little bit we'll go over a few of the different types of space heaters. What you want to watch with space heaters, there's multiple things to deal with safety. Number one, no matter what type of space heater that you have, ensure that it has a covering on it that's not going to allow the corner of a blanket, or if you should have a paper towel get kicked into it. You don't want those items to hit an exposed element that's hot enough to ignite it. Additionally, if you don't have a good grate system, as we call it, a grate over it, or a cover over it, then you subject yourself potentially to burns, as well as if you have any children or pets, they could potentially get burned by coming into contact with that element. And some of those covers that are on there will also get hot enough to actually cause you to get burned if you should touch them. So try to put them in an area where somebody is not going to get in contact with it where they could be harmed. Additionally, electrical heaters. You want to make sure that your cords don't have any frayed wires. That's a great way to start a fire if the wires are frayed. And one other item that a lot of people don't think about is cords are very enticing to cats. So if you should happen to have cats, tape those cords down to the carpet and tape them to the walls, whether you use a gaffing tape or duct tape or something that's not going to damage the surface of your walls. But tape those cords down so that it's less attractive to your cats, because one, if they bite into it, it's bad for them, and two, it could cause a fire. So I can't stress that part enough. This last little bit about heater safety comes because of China. China is making a lot of the heaters that are being brought into America and sold in most of the stores. And China is not known for being good on quality, and they're also known for faking a UL rating. UL stands for United Laboratories, and they are an underwriting service that will look at different products that are in the market and test them for fire rating, so that you know that you've got a good product, that as long as you use it as it's intended and maintain it in the proper manner, that you should have a safe operating product there. Now, China, oftentimes, like I said, they will fake these UL ratings, or they'll use another company that's not as good as UL and try to get you to think, oh, okay, well, this is a safe product, and it really isn't. Now, you can protect yourself by taking the model information from the product that you're looking at and go to the United Laboratories website and check it against their database to make sure that the UL rating for that product is real and not faked. So now let's talk a little bit about heaters. I got a lot of information. I'm going to talk a little quick. Hopefully you guys catch on to everything, but if not, put some questions down on the bottom. I will be sure to answer them. We're going to talk about 4 main types of heaters in this video. While there's certainly more of them, I'm going to kind of go over 4 main types. The first one I want to talk about is this Mr. Heater propane unit. It has a thermostat to it, which I did skip over that. Thermostats are crucial. Make sure that your heater has a thermostat, because it can overheat and ignite itself. But this particular one does have a thermostat setting for it, so that you can set it to go on and off when you want to. A lot of people swear by them. There's a lot of good write-ups on them. I'm not sold. I mean, now I've just got something else in the house that could potentially place carbon monoxide into the air. Additionally, I've got propane issues to worry about. And furthermore, just from looking at it, it looks like the element's exposed. So that's a cause of concern to me. A next very popular type of heater are your ceramic and your wire coil element heaters that use a fan to blow across them. While these are very effective, they also use quite a bit of electricity. The ceramic is a little better than the wire coil, but both of them do use quite a bit of electricity, and their enclosures can get very hot. So, those may not be what you're looking for. I've been intrigued with these quartz heaters, and the one that you see here is a rather expensive one. It's about 150 bucks. And so far, I don't own one, so I haven't been able to test it. I have written a couple companies about my YouTube channel, and I'm hoping that they will send me one to test and that I can do a review on. And of course, if they do that and we like it, we'll tell you about it. If we don't like it, then you won't know. I'll tell you that I don't like it, and I'll send them their heater back. But I've been intrigued with this because I've read a lot of reviews on it, some positive, some negative. But for the most part, the quartz element heaters look to be very energy efficient and give off a good amount of heat. Now, there are some that are in the $30 price range, but they have the same problem that I was talking about earlier of usually they don't have a good cover on the heater. And that is concerning to me, because if something makes contact with that element and that element's hot enough, it could ignite. So far, we just haven't had that heater to test. Now, this last one is the oil-filled radiant heater. And these are what I use in my coach, and I love them. They do tell you to keep them about 3 feet away from anything that's flammable. I found I've been able to put them pretty much wherever I want, and everything's been good to go. They're very energy efficient for what they are. They don't have any fans to blow across them, but they do a good job of getting the temperature in the coach up just enough to make it comfortable. And prior to me buying these 2 heaters and put them in, I was running through 2 30-pound bottles of propane every 2 weeks this winter in North Florida. And after I put them in, it was about every 4 weeks. And that was fantastic, because as most of you all know, the price of propane skyrockets during the winter time since there's so much demand for it. Another item with these heaters, I did something that was a bit unsafe. I would never recommend you guys to do it. I do it because I'm kind of knowledgeable on how to be protected when it comes up. But I wrapped one of my heaters in a thick blanket and just watched it for about 3 hours, and it never overheated, and the blanket never showed any signs of being damaged from it. So I was happy with that part of it. I also put paper towels on top of it to see if those would ignite, and they didn't. I put toilet paper on them to see if that would ignite, and it didn't. I even grabbed a hold of the fins on the side of it and put my hands on them and was able to hold it there for about 20 seconds before it got to be too uncomfortable. And that's one of the things I like, because if a pet happened to rub across it, or you rubbed across it, or a child rubbed across it, they would have plenty of time to get off of it before it would cause any injury. So I really like the radiant heaters. They don't do as good of a job of heating the house as maybe some of the other ones do, because they don't have the fan to blow the air across them. But it kept it about 62 degrees, kept my heater from coming on as much, but yet didn't get so warm that it kept the heater from coming on at all and allowing my tanks to freeze. So it did exactly what I expected it to do. Some people also like to use electric blankets in the bedroom, and I'm going to give you one safety tip on that one as well. Again, here, make sure it's UL approved. Be sure that your cords are not frayed, and just be careful. Remember that you are essentially wrapping yourself inside of an electric coil, and that's not always a good idea. It's just a giant heating pad. If it starts to show any signs of damage, get rid of it and buy a new one. Just be very safe, because you don't want to be electrocuted or set on fire while you're trying to sleep. Now let's talk a little bit about the water tanks and the lines, and then I'm going to mention the vents at the very end, because I've got a pretty cool idea for you there. If you've got a Four Seasons coach that has a heated undercarriage, you should be pretty good to go to make sure that your tanks don't freeze. You know, your fresh water tank, your gray water tank, and your black tank. You don't ever want those tanks to freeze, because there's a potential that they could crack, and now you've got a more expensive issue. If you don't have a Four Seasons coach, or you do have a Four Seasons coach but you're staying in an extremely cold area, you may want to consider the heating pad element that sits on the tanks. Pardon me. It connects to your 12-volt electrical system and provides enough heat to keep those from freezing. Additionally, for your hoses, you can use either the foam insulation tubing like you see here, or you can go to a wrap element that goes around it. It's called heat tape. And then, of course, you put the foam insulation around the heat tape to keep the critters from the outside from wanting to chew on something. And that should help keep your hoses from freezing at all. It just plugs into, some of them are a 110 outlet, others are 12-volt system to keep them warm. Now, the cheapest one I found of those was $40 for a 13-foot, piece of heat tape. If your hose is longer than that, you're going to need a few of those to go together. They also make a heated water hose in multiple different lengths, and they range usually upwards of $100, so that might be too expensive. The cheapest fix, I think, is just to use the foam tubing insulation that you would wrap around an actual pipe, and then as a backup, fill your fresh water tank. This is pretty much what I did last year, and it worked real good, because even when my hose did freeze or the pipe coming out of the ground froze, I've still had water to be able to, wash dishes, take showers, things of that sort. You do, however, when you put that fresh water in your tank, get a little bottle of the conditioner, or the water conditioner, or the water purifying. I don't ever drink out of the shoreline water, but I don't also want to have, water that doesn't smell all that great. So this is a good way to make sure you don't have algae in the water, help control any odors that may come from that shoreline water, and as we call it, and you be much happier with it. Now, as a final note for the video, many of us have either the max flow vents, or the fantastic fans, or even that little cheap fan that sits in the bathroom over the toilet. Now, those vents have very thin plastic, and it is an excellent conductor of heat and a poor insulator. What will happen is heat, as it rises, will go through those vents and to the outside air, and now you're just cooling your house off even faster than than you want to. Now they make a cushion or pillows. They call them vent cushions, vent pillows. Camp-Co has one. It's about $14.99. You see the picture here. I'm going to give you a better idea. This is what I did. Now those things are made of foam and they're covered in something that looks like what you would use to wash your vehicle with. And you know, if I've got 3 of those vents in this house, so I mean that would be $45 for me to cover all those vents in the wintertime. But what I did is I happened to be at a thrift store and I found some rather thick throw pillows that were about $1 a piece, and they were 14 by 14, and they fit perfectly in the vent. I mean, the vent was a little smaller than the pillow, so I was able to squish it down, stick it up in there, and it stayed in place. And I got them for $1 a piece. So for $3, I covered all 3 of my vents. And they've been up, you know, they were up there all winter last year. They'll be up there all winter this year, and they did a fantastic job of you know, keeping the heat inside the house. So those are my tips for safety, and a few little tricks for you there. I hope you enjoyed the video. I'm sorry that it was so long. Please subscribe to the channel if you like the content that's here, and check out the other videos that I got. By the way, if you would like to see what a North Florida snow and ice storm looks like that stuck around for 3 days, you can check that video out here on the channel as well. Be sure to give me a thumbs up if you liked it, a thumbs down if you didn't, but make some comments. Let me know if you've got any questions or if there's anything else that you'd like to know about, and I'll be more than happy to answer them. And don't forget, we've also got the blog page at www.fulltimeinmyrv.com. Thanks for watching.